Thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. This show is brought to you in partnership with the Witherslack Group, experts in special education and care. Enjoy the podcast.
Dear staff, I'd like to talk to you today about learning walks. Thank you so much for letting me do several unannounced learning walks before half term. I do realise that these created anxiety for many of you, but please do not worry, unless you are of course someone who I'm trying to get rid of. To make it more transparent about the things I look for in lessons, I've created a list for you to study for future unannounced drop-ins. It's not everything, of course, I look for, but it does make it easier for me to pick up on something that you don't do in order to target particular teachers that I don't like. So here we are then. When I walked into your lessons, was the learning objective shared? Was the learning objective discussed? Was the success criterion mentioned? Was the previous lesson referred back to? And did the teaching assistant look busy? Did the teacher involve the teaching assistant in the inputs? And did the lesson have pace? Did pupils engage with the resources positively? Were resources used correctly? Were pupils using the resources confidently? Were pupils discussing their learning? Were pupils listening without yawning? And how often did the teacher use praise? How often did the pupils call out? How often did the teaching assistant ask for help? Were the more able pupils stretched in the lesson? Were the pupil premium pupils engaged? It's very important. Were special needs pupils working independently? Were open-ended questions deployed appropriately? Was the overall level of challenge good enough for the lesson? What was the balance between teacher talk and child talk? And were there opportunities for pupils to read out their work in the lesson? Did the teacher use 3 mini plenaries? Did the teacher use a final plenary? I wonder if the pupils entered the classroom silently, and did all the pupils sit down quickly? How well did the pupils line up? How many pupils were whispering? Was mastery taking place? Was there time for purple pen work? Was there good use of IT? Were tables set out in rows? Had all 8 display boards been updated recently? And did displays have pupils' work up? Did displays have questions on? Had pupils responded to written feedback? Was all the work marked? And were next steps shared? Was display text 50% handwritten? And did the teacher use lolly sticks to randomly choose children to answer questions? Did the teacher give up to 30 seconds for a pupil to answer a question? Did accelerated learning take place? Did pupils know what they were learning? Could pupils regurgitate the learning objective and explain in great detail how to achieve it? Did the teacher make good use of talk buddies? Did the classroom have a reading corner? Did the classroom have the school motto up in the room? Was there a positive mindset quote somewhere in the class? Had the teacher written the date neatly? Was the date written straight? Did the teacher make good use of the working walls? Did the teacher update the working walls during the lesson? How often did the pupils call out? How did the teacher respond to low-level disruption? Was there evidence of assessment for learning from the previous lesson? How did the teacher use assessment for learning in the lesson? Did any pupils look out of the window, even for a couple of seconds? Did the pupils enjoy the lesson? How did the teacher give feedback from the previous lesson? How did the teacher move around the classroom? How quickly did the teacher address misconceptions? How did the teacher talk to the pupils? Did the teacher invite pupils up to use the interactive whiteboard? Were any pupils using the classroom computer? Was the teacher wearing their name badge? Was there evidence that the teacher was using a safety mug for their cup of tea? How tidy was the classroom? Were all pupils challenged? Were all pupils looking at the teacher? Did the teacher stay positive? Did the teacher remain calm when being observed? Did the teacher pull a one-off lesson out of the bag? Was this a typical lesson by the teacher? Is the teacher on the upper pay scale? Need to get rid of them. So there you go. There's absolutely nothing to worry about at all. Do all the things I've mentioned and you'll be absolutely fine. Of course, if you are a teacher that I don't like very much, then you probably need to be very worried. Bye.